Hi, and welcome to Chasing the Twist. Today, I'm going to do a quick review on the Infinity Looper from Pigtronic as a comparison to the Ditto X4 looper from TC Electronic. I've been using loopers for the past 20 years. I can't believe that much time has passed, but my first one was an Oberheim Echoplex. It was a rack mount unit with this big old foot pedal, and it was great in most ways. There were some issues with it. One of them is that it was a rack mount and it took up a big floor space. I then had the Boss 20XL, which was a great looper. I upgraded that eventually to the Boss 30, which was really just incrementally better in that it had a volume for each loop. And then after a lot of research, I bought the TC Electronic Ditto X4 because I wanted to get into using MIDI and so on. The looper pedal that I really wanted was the Infinity Looper from Pigtronic, but at the time it was really cost prohibitive. It was $450 for the Infinity and it was $180 for the Ditto. Now I found the Infinity Looper for much cheaper, $360. So still twice as much as the Ditto, but definitely sub $400. Here's the executive summary. The Ditto X4 is really good. Out of the box, it's really simple to use, very user-friendly, has pretty much all the features that the Pigtronic Infinity Looper has, but the Pigtronic enables better in every category. The downsides of the Pigtronic are the cost, it's more expensive, and it requires a remote foot switch and potentially an expression pedal if you want to get all of the features of the Ditto X4. The upsides of the Pigtronic are it's much more tweakable, it's much more customizable, it sounds a bit better, the quality, there's more transients in the sound. If you use MIDI at all, and especially if you use MIDI a lot, there's really only one solution, and that's the Pigtronic Infinity Looper. If you are looking for just a simple looper, and you only need one track, just buy the Ditto, the little mini Ditto. If you need two tracks that play together nicely, but you still want a simple looper, the Ditto X4 is great. I don't see any value in the Ditto X2 really. The effects aren't that great, and I'd rather have a 2-channel without effects than a 1-channel with effects. But if you want to tweak, if you want to use MIDI, buy the Pigtronic. Now for some of the details. The usability, how you use them, how you interact with them is a bit different. There's a bit of a longer learning curve with the Pigtronic, but ultimately it enables much more control and it enables a better experience. You can select a channel or a loop to arm, and then you can fade that one out by itself, for example, or you can stop them all at the same time. Whereas the Ditto X4, again, is targeted as a much more simple looper, and it does really well at that. If you use MIDI, the Ditto X4, the recent firmware, they introduced where it will listen to the start and stop signals from the MIDI source, but they didn't execute it very well. It always starts a bit after the downbeat. There's a bit of a lag, which just really isn't usable. And with the Infinity, initially in its stock form, it also listened for the start and stop signal. Thankfully it did execute it well, but I don't want it to listen to that, so I found a workaround where I was able to change the channel it was listening to, and now it only listens for the downbeat. It doesn't listen to the start and stop channel, or the start and stop signal. Let's listen to that a little bit. I have my Korg sampler, and I already have something recorded on the TC Electronic, and you'll hear that it starts, but it starts after the beat, and then I'll just loop a little bit. That actually did pretty well. It did really well that time, I don't know, but sometimes it lags and sometimes it's on the beat. It's just not super reliable. So if you stayed with me for that long, you would have seen that you can have two loops. You can play them in series or parallel. Also, with the undo function is much better on the Infinity Looper, and you can actually use it to bring in and remove, the second part on a single loop. Whereas the Ditto X4, it has an undo function, but it's much more simple. There's no redo, there's no reapply. Also, some differences, they both enable, when you're in, they both enable one loop, the second loop being a multiple of the first loop. So this loop can be 1 measure long, this loop can be 2 or 3 or 4 or what have you. The differences are the Ditto X4 is real time, so that when you're recording, it's determining how many measures or how many multiples it will be, and which has its pros and cons. The Infinity, you have to pre-select how long you want it to be, and with a bit of planning, I think the Infinity Looper, that approach is better, because I know it's going to be 4 times longer. It will automatically stop recording the 4th time around and start the loop. Whereas with the Ditto X4, if you miss the downbeat a little bit, it'll add an additional multiple to that loop, which can get you out of sync. Also, some differences with reverse, which I haven't shown, but some of the effects, most of the Ditto X4 effects happen instantaneous, so the doubling and the halftime and the reverse, whereas with the Infinity, especially with the reverse, with the Infinity, they start on the downbeat. The advantage to that, it took me a little bit to get used to, but the advantage to that is that it always remains in time when you are ending the loop. Whereas with the Ditto X4 you can get out of sync because you've started in reverse halfway through and then you can push the button and then you lose the downbeat. So even though the Infinity Looper at first may seem more rigid in that regard, it always starts on the downbeat, and also that you have to pre-select the multiple that you want for loop 2, in the end it delivers a much better product. Oh, here's the final thing that puts the Infinity over the top, is you can preload loops. There's 59, I think, or 60 presets. So you can load in from your computer loops for each, or sound samples for each loop. You can specify, if you're using MIDI, you can specify the tempo and the number of measures in the loop, and then you can control that all via MIDI. You can change the preset, you can start and stop loops, and so on. So if you have a pre-canned set that you want to load a whole bunch of loops in, the Infinity is really the way to go. Again, my conclusion is, if you want just a simple basic looper, the Ditto X4 is a bit easier to use out of the box, but it has a much lower ceiling. The Infinity Looper, there's a much more of a learning curve, but it really enables much better across the board. And even if you have to buy a remote switch and maybe an expression pedal to get everything out of it, it's really a better looper. Let me know what you think. Do you use a looper? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.